Welcome to the Jungle Brothers podcast. You're here today without Joe. You're here with Jungle Brothers Paulie and JBT, Aura.
Hello.
And our special guest here, Nick Golkin.
Good day.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Cool. This is episode 104. Last week we spoke to Joe Taylor, our head of our weightlifting program here in the gym. Nick is another coach, and it'll be good to get to know him today. Before we do get started, though, what have we got to talk about? We got events coming up. We've got a BJJ Beginners Workshop here in the gym on the 17th of April. That is, if you're listening to this podcast, it would have come out Monday. That is this weekend. So reach out to us. All levels welcome. Beginners. So it'll be suitable for all types. Nothing much else coming on in May. We got a winter planning day here for our members. We got this animal flow workshop coming into the gym. We have our internship workshop that's coming up in May on the weekend of the 8th and 9th. And basically, we have an internship that runs in here in the gym. In the past, we've run 4 of them or 5 of them. They happen over 12 weeks here in the gym. And what we found was that we had lots of people reach out to us that couldn't spend that time here or weren't from Sydney. And so what we've done is we've put together a weekend intensive. That's on Saturday the 8th or 9th. It's 2 full days, and it's everything that we do here. From the business aspect as a gym, or for PTs, PT modelling within the gym, from sales to marketing, and all of it. So reach out to us and get involved. There are some spaces left. Other than that, we're here at the podcast doing the thing. Joe's busy today, so it's just the 3 of us. Nicky Golkin, what's happening?
Not much. First ever podcast, so I'm super excited actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Do you listen to a lot of podcasts?
I do. So my favorite way to spend time on a Sunday actually is just completely disconnect from all social media, go for long walks and listen to podcasts. So
is that true?
That's probably my primary form of learning these days.
Wow.
Yeah. So listen to a lot of Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, a lot of movement podcasts, JB's as well.
Very good. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah.
That was like 4th down the line though. But we're gaining on Joe Rogan.
So I had to answer the door.
No
2
worries.
guys selling water. Selling water. It's fucking weird, isn't it? Selling water. It's like selling air, isn't it?
Well,
I got some air for you.
That might be
buy
the
some
case. It might be. You won't be laughing maybe in 50 years from now.
Don't say that.
No,
Scary.
not if
Be a
Jungle
rare
Brothers had
commodity.
anything to do with it.
That's right.
Podcasts, it's your primary way of learning. Why is that, you reckon? I mean, I know I listen to a lot too.
I guess you could do it anywhere. So usually when I'm driving or I'm walking, when I'm in the supermarket, so I prefer to utilize that time well. So I try to learn as much as possible. Audiobooks go really well as well, but podcasts tend to be a lot more free-flowing and a lot more current as well. So I get a lot of insights from there. And if I pick up on a person that's of a particular interest to me or a particular topic, I then go on and dig deeper. So I would read a lot on that and explore in another time. But yeah, podcasts are great for exposure.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a listener out there listening to this, we're kind of preaching to the choir here. They're listening to them. They're great these days. They're convenient. And with this kind of long format stuff, you really get to dig into something, and it's very accessible and all of that stuff.
Yep. And depending on the podcast as well, some of them are a lot about learning, but others are great for banter and just
entertaining.
entertainment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
and the JB podcast is a great mix of all those things. So yeah, you've done really well. I really enjoyed listening to you guys. So last year or so. And actually,
that's a lovely thing to say. Nick. Thank you.
JB podcast. The first one I listened to was about the internship, and that's how I ended up connecting with Joey and ended up doing the internship here.
There you go.
Yeah.
As I was just kind of taking people through it.
Yeah, it was just great because you laid out your philosophy of training in a way that was really relatable, and I just realized I got to do this, and I listened to it at the right time just before it kickstarted. So
Awesome. That's right. I remember now.
And you had been doing but before that you did the internship with AIM. Is that right? Was it before then, or was there an internship there, or how did you meet? How did you meet Vic? Yes.
So I wasn't doing an internship there. What I was doing was a coaches development program. So coaches development program was it was a membership at AIM, essentially, with 2 classes that catered primarily to coaches. So that's where we'd train for hours and go deep into particular concepts. And we would have an online group where we would share knowledge between us and other coaches that were from other cities or other countries. But there was an internship as well, but there was a long, I think week would take on students for like 6 months or so, and they would be a part of the gym day to day, just slaving away and learning as much as possible through doing the coaching. So it was a different structure from what you guys do here.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Vic Hawksley, he is a coach. We've known Vic for years now, and he runs
Certified Beast.
AIM is Anatomy in Motion in
North Shore.
North Shore? Yeah.
Yeah, St. Leonard's or
St. Leonard's.
Nuremberg.
Yeah. It's a smaller gym, but Vic is an absolute beast of a human, he's almost on that line of obsessive with his approach to exercise and exercise prescription. He's very good
in
at
a
what he
fully
does.
Complimentary way.
He's
amazing at what he
amazing.
does.
But I only know him as on a friendship level. I've never trained under him, but I'm guessing he would be quite a taskmaster. Is he a whip cracker? Is he cracking that whip?
He has a dominant personality. I gotta say that, and it is. He is very particular about his methods, and he knows what works for most people. So when you're out there training at AIM, you would be training under his philosophy 100%.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be able to do like your own training in the open gym, whatnot. You would be under supervision, and the classes are quite small, and the coach's attention to everyone is very
intimate, isn't it?
It's very intimate, and they're very strict on things like form and stuff like that.
Great,
which is great. It worked for me really well at that time, but then eventually once I learned, I thought I learned enough from Vic, and I considered him a great mentor of mine. That's exactly what I needed at the time. Once I realized what worked for me, I wanted to explore more freedom and different training styles.
He wasn't going to let you dance in the gym. You also dance as well, yeah?
I do dance. Yeah, I've done a lot of salsa and Latin dancing in the last few years.
Yeah, give us a full background before we get fully deep, because we want to get to know you here. I know you as a strong bodyweight background and an amazing dancer. And I love when I see coaching classes here and stuff, you're using your exposure to dancing inside our warm-ups and inside the programs that we have. That's exactly what our class is supposed to have. It's like coaches that come in with their own diverse backgrounds and, giving them the freedom to use those and apply them inside of our programs. So where did it start for you, bodyweight strength? Was it at AIM, or had you already been doing it beforehand?
Well, if you're born and raised in Russia, it's pretty hard to avoid bodyweight training.
Russian.
Yes. So I was...
it's either that or ballet, isn't it?
Yes, or ice hockey.
Ice hockey.
Yeah, things like that.
Whereabouts in Russia are you from? Not that I know the area well.
The Far East.
Far East.
So it would be the same time zone as Sydney, actually.
Incredible.
Yeah, a small town called Khabarovsk. Well, it's not that small. It's probably about the size of Newcastle.
How do you say it?
Khabarovsk.
Khabarovsk.
Yeah.
That's probably a small town in Russia, though, isn't it?
Yeah, compared to places like Moscow that has 15 or 20 million people, it is pretty small. But it's perfect size for a town to grow up in. So it's not too small, but you have all the things that you need, such as education, sports clubs and
community.
Yeah. So that was pretty good. So I grew up there in the 90s when Russia was in a pretty bad state. We didn't really have good gyms for a long time, and they only started to pop up around like 2000s. But the good thing about like the Soviet Union was that everyone was encouraged to be active. So every apartment complex would have an outdoor gym.
Okay, because I think I see this in YouTube and on videos and stuff, and I think, oh, am I tripping? Is this just my perspective of things, or is there bar parks on every corner?
Yes, there's a lot of them, and
mad.
Most of them were built in like the 80s, the 70s, but nowadays, you know, whenever there's a new development, people put another one in. So that was great, and
become part of the culture.
Yes.
Right.
In fact, almost every school has them. So you'd have, you know, your chin-up bars, your deep bars, and a whole bunch of
monkey bars. Some benches.
Yeah, so you could play around on those. They wouldn't be able to be built like that in Australia because a lot of them actually have concrete. So if you fall, if you're a little kid, you fall and like you know, crush your head, then
that's it.
That's on you. So in Russia, people don't really bother.
Survival
with
of
that
the fittest, right there.
Exactly.
Getting rid of the weak ones.
Yeah.
That's why everyone's so strong over there.
We need
more of that here.
Correct. Isn't it incredible though? Like, and you know, it's just the environment. Whether you are forcing people to interact with it or not, just because it's there, people will kind of use it. Like, for instance, what would happen if we built a bar park, you know,
outside our gym?
And everywhere around Sydney.
No one would join it.
Would you think that you would kind of assume, or you'd think that would increase the physicality of the general population if we had bar parks absolutely everywhere over time?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Provided that people aren't just, you know, sitting on their tablets and phones inside all the time.
Or we've built cafes.
Plus, there's also, I think, to build the culture, you need the education as well, you know, and a focus on those areas. I think if, because we've still got them over here, but they're not
far and few,
very good, and they're all OH&S safe, and the ground's padded, and the chin-up bars are like nose height, so you can't even hang without your feet touching the ground. They're almost built to accommodate a level of decrepency in a way. And then next to it, you've got a bunch of machines that you sit on and you push and pull, which again do the same kind of thing. That it's not quite the same, you know. So it's almost like somebody's looked at what's happening elsewhere and tried to build this model without the education, the knowledge, or the help of a culture, you know.
How did you start? Did you just go start playing on the bars, or did you have a crew, or did it come through like a school gym program?
I actually started just in my parents' bedroom doing crunches with my feet locked under their bed. So that was a perfect setup for me. I think I was at the highs of puberty, around 12 or 13 or 14 years old.
The highs.
Yeah, I just wanted to look good. So started doing a lot of crunches, started doing push-ups just at home. And my dad
Pecs
also...
and abs.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
They're the muscles you see in the mirror, that's why.
Exactly. I had no idea what I was doing. My dad also set up a suspended chin-up bar in my bedroom, so I could do chin-ups, and I had a few dumbbells lying around as well, so doing the curls for the girls. But yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. I knew that that was the foundation of it. So you know, the chin-ups, push-ups, and crunches. And I did a lot of them every day. So for a number of years, I would do like 100 push-ups, 100 crunches, a few chin-ups here and there, and that got me to a point where I looked pretty good. When you're young, so young, just going through puberty, the hormones, like the testosterone that's pushing you forward, I think it's going to ensure that like you get gains no matter what you do. If there's any training stimulus, you could do a lot of stupid mistakes, do too much volume, and you'll still grow. And I think I took a great advantage in that. So that's where I started. Eventually, I joined the gym with my mate, who's also called Nick. But he was quite different from me in body types. He was a lot more stocky. He had like a body of a power lifter. So we started training together using weights, a combination of weights and body weight exercises. And what I noticed that even though I was initially a lot stronger, he benefited a lot from weights just because of his body type. whereas I wasn't getting the same gains. Back in the day, we had no idea what we were doing, so we were doing the same weights and the same program essentially together. But I was growing a lot better from bodyweight stuff, whereas he did a lot better with weights. And that's how I spent most of the time in high school, just training in that way. And eventually I just plateaued and stopped training altogether. So my focus shifted to academic pursuits. I wanted to move overseas, as far away from Russia as possible. And I knew that in order to do that, I needed to focus on my studies. So I eventually ended up changing schools, moved to a school that was like the highest ranked selective school in the state. And so I had to double down on my maths, my physics, computer science, which were the most important subjects. And I had to make sure that I learned English really well to get admitted into university somewhere like Canada or Australia.
West.
You say you want to get as far away from Russia as possible. What was the driver behind that?
I think I just wanted adventure. I knew that if I'd stayed in my hometown, it would be easy for me. So it would be easy for me to get an education. It would be easy for me to buy an apartment, get a cushy job. My parents would probably help me with that. But I wanted adventure and adversity in some sense, and I wanted to experience the world. So making that first step as big as possible, I thought that would push me to to my limits at the time. So and Australia ended up the place that I picked for a couple of random reasons. I had some friends that moved here earlier, and I also wanted to escape winter because winter really sucks in Russia.
I bet.
Yeah.
How bad does it suck? Like, what are we talking?
We're talking in my hometown, the coldest I've experienced was minus 48 degrees.
Oh. Celsius,
yes, that is pretty
gosh.
cold. But the average temperature in winter would be minus 20, 25, which is okay. But if you add wind to that, it feels a lot colder.
Oh.
I don't really want to find
like
out.
living in a freezer. Wow.
Yeah.
How cold's the freezer usually? It's like
Freezer's
minus
like
10
4.
or something, isn't it?
Yeah,
4.
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you were studying, what did you study in the end?
Did
Did you finish your studies there and then you came over here?
I finished high school there.
Yep.
And I came over here to do a bridging program to get into university in Australia. The problem was the high school system in Australia. It's only 11 years of education, and it says it's
How many do
not
you
enough.
want?
You need 12 in Australia.
Sorry, yes.
So and it's one extra year. So I had to do like a bridging course just to
sure.
spend 1 year. I didn't learn anything new.
Sure.
But I learned all the same subjects just in English. So that helped me to get into uni. I had no idea as an 18-year-old what I wanted to study.
So you came here when you were 18?
Yes, 18 years old.
And you were alone?
Yes. I did have friends from high school that moved to Sydney as well, but we haven't really talked since then. It's been about a decade.
How did your family feel about you moving overseas at 18? It's pretty ballsy.
Yeah, well, I think they always wanted the best for me. And Russia, particularly back then, it was a pretty rough spot. And still these days, it's hard to live there because, the political circumstances and there's a lot of corruption. So there's no protection of private property. So if you, for example, have a successful business or whatnot, the government or the police can come and basically take it away from you. And my parents lost a pretty big business in the 90s and they had to run for their lives. So they moved from a small island in the Pacific, which was still in Russia, to the mainland. And they were running away. So it was not the safest place.
Okay, where they were.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they wanted me to...
So Russia has islands in the Pacific.
Yes.
We're talking like right up the top of the Pacific Ocean, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so where I was born, the place is called Sakhalin Island. It's a huge island just north of Japan. If you stand on the southernmost edge of the island in good weather, you can actually see Japan from there. So
Man, Russia is fucking huge.
We're all islanders.
So that's like all above the top of that would be over the top of China then? I need to look at a map.
So my hometown is about 3 hours away flight time from Beijing, Tokyo, and Seoul. So it's in this triangle of countries in Asia, North Asia.
Must get a lot of interesting like mixes of genes around that area.
Not really.
No one's mixing.
It's mostly Russians. We have an indigenous population that looks, a little quite bit Asian,
like Mongolian.
Yes, they're kind of like Eskimos of Canada.
What do you call that indigenous population?
There's a whole bunch of different nations, so they don't have one particular name.
Right, and Russia used to occupy Alaska, didn't they? Alaska was originally Russia, and then it went to the States. Or
we actually sold it to the States.
Yes.
And if I'm not wrong, the ship that was carrying the gold sunk, so we never actually got the money for it. Yeah.
Damn. Well, that's what they said anyway.
Yeah.
Probably never left the port.
Yeah. But to be honest, Russia was really overstretched and still is. So the far east of Russia where I'm from, it's my home state is about
a lot of land to be occupying.
My home state it's one of the regions there. It's about 3 times the size of France, and we only have just under 1 million people living there. So it's very undeveloped.
So a huge amount of like land mass.
When you say your home state, do you mean the island that you were brought up on, or
the mainland?
The mainland part of that state, or the islands closest to?
So there's a whole region in Russia called the Far East, which is huge. It's probably twice the size of Australia. And it consists of 5 or 6 states. Where I was born, an island, that's a Sakhalin Island, that's a separate state within the federal system. And then I moved to the mainland state of Khabarovsk. So, and that's where I spent most of my life.
I see. And because of the situation with your parents, they were understanding that for you, there's opportunity elsewhere, and they were encouraging you, look, that's a great idea. You're motivated to move overseas.
Yes, absolutely.
Go ahead and do that. So you came here while you... when you came here then, where was your training at, say? And I'm trying to bring this back to strength, because I'd love to talk about, how you do things. Who were you training with there, or before you went to AIM, was there a crew? Most people have a bit of a crew that they rock with, or were you solo with a few friends starting to get deeper into it?
Yeah, so due to my personality, I've always trained solo primarily. That's just the type of person I am. And I'm quite serious about my training, so it's always very structured, very regimented, and not many people can vibe with that. So train solo most of the time. I stopped training for a few years when I was in uni, and I didn't do pretty much anything. I played volleyball. That's something that I used to play back in Russia as well. So I used to compete for my school team and state team. And I played here for Sydney Uni for a couple of years as well, until I twisted my ankle and decided that was enough.
Great sport.
Yeah, it's good. So it gives you a pretty good vertical jump. And I started training calisthenics again later at uni, about year 4, probably when I was doing my honors thesis. But the problem that I had with my development, first of all, I had no idea of what I was doing, how to progress it, and I also had terrible mobility. So after years of playing volleyball, my lower body in particular was wrecked, because I never did exercises with full range of motion. I never stretched. And so I got to the point where I could only do a quarter squat. That's how bad it was.
Did you in pain, or you just restricted from movement?
Just extremely restricted. And my shoulders were pretty bad as well. I couldn't do any overhead stuff. I could probably lift it, 60 degrees high. And so I felt very limited. And eventually got to the point where I decided it was time to drop my ego and seek some coaching. I started doing gymnastics classes at a place called Lift Performance Center in Redford, which no longer exists.
Yeah.
And Spencer.
Did you do Spencer, Spenny?
Yeah, so I started training with him.
Cool. Around
2017. So started doing group classes first, and then eventually ended up getting programming from Spencer for my own sessions. And that was primarily Ido stuff.
So Ido, yeah.
Yeah, and there was just a lot of volume.
2,000 reps of toe lifts.
Yes. So 2 sessions
3
a day.
3 hours.
4 hours, I would say.
Yes.
4 hours a day. But it got me going.
For sure.
So it finally started to move things with my mobility, lower body mobility in particular, because nothing could help me before. I tried yoga for a bit, but that didn't really do anything, even though I did it every day for like 3 months. And yes, things started to shift. Mobility started to move, and my upper body strength exploded as well from that sort of training.
I like your choice of words.
Yeah. Yes. Just because, the progressions were right for me. I did a lot of eccentric work and stuff like that. But eventually the volume caught up to me. I couldn't do that much training anymore. I started dancing around the same time as well. And for about 3 months, I was doing 2 sessions a day of the EDO stuff at the gym. So that's about 3 to 4 hours. And then I would go on and do 2 or 3 salsa classes. And then I'd go social dancing till like 11, 12, like 1 a.m. And I would do that about 5 or 6 nights a week. And I thought I was invincible because I could pull it off. I thought I was superhuman.
How long did this last for?
About 3 months.
Okay.
I was running on about 6 hours of sleep. I was super caffeinated. But yeah, eventually my body just started to give up. I was under recovering. I wasn't eating well. And
to support the training.
Yeah, and I also
you looked
started
fantastic,
traveling.
and that's all that matters.
Yeah,
And the ladies loved it.
Just put some sunglasses over your eyes.
Yeah, for sure. And it made me quite happy as well because I was doing a job at the time that didn't give me, that much satisfaction. So through training, through dancing, I managed to find the state of flow. And so I got addicted to that. And eventually I also started traveling quite often to Europe, to America. And I told myself I could still train twice a day while I'm traveling, but that didn't happen. I ended up getting kicked out of a whole bunch of like CrossFit gyms in America for doing weird EDO stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Because they just
asked you to leave.
They never saw that stuff before, and they were like, "Oh,
Hey,
our insurance is not going to cover that." Yeah, and eventually
They don't cover the lizard crawl.
Yes.
The waivers don't.
They cover burpees though.
Burpees and kipping pull-ups.
Yeah.
Fine. No
Yeah.
lizard crawls.
No lizard crawls.
Isn't that strange? Maybe they just didn't like, because it was so foreign, like the patterns, it didn't. When if someone comes into the gym here and they start doing kipping pull-ups and shit like that, like I almost feel a little bit uncomfortable when I see it. I'm like, it's not really our style, So I guess I could understand coming from that perspective, but maybe the insurance thing was an excuse more than anything.
Maybe it was his personality.
Yeah.
I don't know, but eventually I just realized I couldn't sustain that type of training, and I stopped again for a bit, and then I ended up connecting with Vic. So I did a workshop at his gym called Get Bent, which was all about like their mobility methods, and it was a whole day workshop with a whole bunch of coaches, and I think I was one of 3 guys that were just practitioners. And I really connected to his philosophy of making sure that the form is perfect, that you're doing everything that works for your context, and you don't have to train for six days a week, and you can still get gains. So I ended up just signing up with him shortly after that.
How many hours and days does Vic train? Because I don't know, just to let people at home know what Vic Hawksley is like. He's the guy that you see on Instagram, like every month is doing some crazy new technique that somehow he's progressed to in a very short period of time. And you kind of like, it's almost like you're just watching this guy kick goal after goal after goal. It's almost a little bit depressing because you're working on the same stuff and you're kind of plateauing and you're just watching Vic continually progress. It's quite amazing. And I know he trains very hard and it's a credit, this is I'm saying this from the utmost compliments, but how much is this guy training? Is he training like, is he training like an EDO disciple where he's doing 4 hours a day, 6 days a week, or is he just very smart about it?
No, he definitely
or is it
doesn't
just a
train
gene?
that much.
Maybe it's just a gene.
It's
It's a genetic freak.
No. He's a
fucking
hard
amazing.
worker. I think
He's
you're being comical about it, but
He is amazing.
he's been training for a
Not at all.
long time, and he's very, I think, from the outside.
I want to know the secret. That's all. Like I'm keen to.
Mate, ring him up.
No, ego steps in the way. Of that.
My ego can't call him up.
afford him. 3 kids.
I think his secret is
He's very
practicing the
consistent.
basics
Yeah.
often, being very consistent.
And he doesn't veer from those paths, does he? Like he doesn't have these big breaks off the barbell or anything like that.
Nope. As far as I'm
Consistency.
aware, he does 2 to 3 sessions a week himself. And he tries to get other people involved as well. So that coach's development program that he does, we all train together. So Vic is training with us and taking us through the movements. And in a way that creates that growth environment where you push each other as well. But he definitely doesn't do the crazy amounts of volumes.
Wow.
He might have at a
3
time,
days
but
a
he's-
week. I don't believe that.
I do.
Sorry, Nick. I don't believe that.
I'm talking about like hard training. He definitely when he's in classes, he's doing a lot of demos and stuff like that. So he's
Yes,
moving all the
he's
time.
moving.
Not doing
It's the
any
lifestyle.
demos. Aren't doing anything. 3 days a week,
Mate,
the guy is a beast. He's a beast.
I'm gonna call him on your behalf.
I'm calling him.
Go on.
I want to know.
Might be
We need to
doing
get him
more
on the
these days.
podcast.
I know that's
Yeah, we
actually
should.
what we need to do.
I'd love to get him on.
Perfect.
He's a fucking great guy. He's full of energy. He's got huge amount of energy. 3 days a week.
As far as I'm aware, he might be hiding. He might not be posting
He's
on
doing
the
secret
other
sessions.
days.
Sure, he's doing secret sessions.
But he's doing very intense stuff. So, you'd need to recover a lot from that. So maybe it is 3 days. Who knows?
Possibly. Or whatever he's doing, it's working.
Yeah.
Is his gym filled with people like him though? Like, is there just a bunch of beasts in there? Just because I don't see it. I see a lot of Vic, but I don't see a lot of what the inner workings of AIM.
I wouldn't say that anyone in there has the same sort of personality as Vic.
There's only one, isn't there?
Yeah, there's only one.
Oxley.
So it is a dictatorship, but he knows his stuff works, and all the people that go in there they have the beginner's mind, and they open and they're
learning, they're progressing.
They're
Yeah,
gonna follow
I've-
his path.
Yeah, I've followed him for a long time, and I've seen a lot of general population getting extremely strong, and he's got the silverback guy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and I watched him go from pretty tight and not particularly mobile to or strong.
Yeah, he's
to
quite
now he
amazing.
does a lot of everything that freaking I do. He's killing it, and there's lots of people in the gym that seem to be doing that. So you benefited from your time there. How long were you there for? And I guess how has that affected your training today? There's a lot of influence there.
yeah. Good question.
How did you melt that into what you're doing now?
I was there for about a year overall. I think most of the time I was there as a tribe member, and eventually when I started doing my third floor to become a coach, I joined the coaches development program as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yep. So in terms of how it changed my philosophy, number one, realizing that you don't have to train 6 days a week for 4 hours to get good gains. That was the biggest realization for me. Also, practicing the basics. So making sure that the foundational movements are always there, and you internalize that strength and don't just chase fancy movements all the time. That patient approach, that more humble approach, was the biggest game changer, because I ended up, getting things like one-arm chins, pelicans, all the fancy things that I can do now that I was chasing doing Edo stuff but couldn't get. I ended up getting with Vic, and I wasn't training nearly as much, but the basics were there, the regressions were there, and the recovery was there. So that was the biggest takeaway for me.
So were your weeks looking a bit like what we were talking about with Vic? It would be 2 to 3 focused sessions at a high intensity.
Yep. So back then I was part of a squad. So a squad is a thing they have at AIM.
You taking these notes down, Paul?
Yeah.
I am.
Great.
Yeah. So training squad, it's kind of like a small group. So there will be 4 people in the squad. Each one would have their own program, and there would be one coach there to look after them. And on top of that, you do group classes. So I would end up doing about 4 or 5 group classes spread over 3 days, and on squad, and that would be it for me. So that was definitely not as much as I was doing before with Ito.
Even though it was still 7 sessions.
And it still felt like getting similar results or even better.
Yeah, even if I did like 2 sessions a week or sometimes just 1 session a week, which I eventually ended up doing during COVID. I would just do like 1 or 2 training sessions a week. I noticed that I could still gain progress in high intensity movements. So yeah, just that realization that if you do things correctly, if you're humble, if you're patient, then the gains will come.
And the consistency is a very key factor for that, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I've just got even more respect for Vic Hawksley now than I had before, and I had a lot for him before this podcast. But yeah, it's good. It's good to know that that you've been there, absorbed a whole bunch of stuff from him, and then you come to us. And what differences did you notice coming into Jungle Brothers from AIM?
Well, I gotta say the biggest difference is the freedom of expression, because Jungle Brothers has all these people training different things in the gym, be it classes, there's martial arts, there's, lifting and calisthenics and so on. Or people just...
Someone's breakdancing in the corner, other people doing acrobatics.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an open gym, so you can come and do your own thing, which is not the case in AIM. So that gives you a sense of freedom. Yeah,
I didn't realize it was like that there, but in any case, our open gym, just for listeners, isn't necessarily you can come in here and do absolutely anything that you want to do. There's freedom, although we were obviously going to look out for anyone who's doing something that might be dangerous, harmful.
If you move like shit, you can't do it.
Pretty much. So it
comes like in the ethos, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually in our T&Cs as well. so open gym kind of has to have you have to be either working on a program with someone here, or it needs to be signed off by a coach in here.
Yeah.
And, we have pretty trustworthy members in here, and people come to us because they know our philosophy and it's kind of ingrained in them. So I guess I was just saying,
we do like experts in their field practicing self-expression in the gym, without a doubt,
But because I had a guy come and rush into the doors. So, what do you guys do here? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, can I bring in my tire and my hammer here? And I was like, he's like, are you guys classes only? I was like, we got an open gym in the middle, and that's part of the product. And he was like, yeah, I've been doing tire and hammer for a long time. It's what I feel is really good for me. And he's like, can I bring it in here? I was like,
oh, fuck. We had a tire once.
Yes.
It ended up I think it actually ended up at Lift. It came from CrossFit around the corner. Oh, wow. And then we were like, yeah, we'll use that. And it sat there and fucking filled with water and became a mosquito bloody larvae thing. And then those guys, Lift took it, and then it ended up just doing the rounds all around Sydney because everyone was looking at the whole tire, like flipping tires and bashing them with sledgehammers. It was all over YouTube and shit. You remember that?
I don't actually. Probably just erased it from my memory banks.
We've had a lot of different bits of equipment end up in our gym, and
it finds
go
us.
Out the
People want to donate things,
Yeah.
Still getting
well,
that.
It's great, but like obviously there's not absolute whatever.
You feel
like freedom in here. You have to fit in within the culture and make sure that you know what you're doing.
You got to move well.
So that was a big thing. I didn't realize it was like that. So I can understand that being able to come in here and do a bit of salsa for yourself or train your own program, even within the same kind of framework.
While we're taking notes around you.
And the community as well, stuff. Actually. That was the biggest thing I connected with.
Okay, cool.
That feeling of freedom and different styles and people with different interests makes the community a lot more vibrant. And that's something that... my very first day after I signed up for the internship, I came here to train, and that was the last week before the COVID shutdown. I just fell in love with the place because Marco was training handstands and he was giving me tips and stuff. Joey was doing his own stuff, and then there was a class running. There was jits upstairs, and everyone was super friendly, and the crowd was super diverse, and just the place was full of life, and I just fell in love with that.
Fantastic. That's great. So you did your Cert 4. Did you finish before you came here? You were already finished?
Yeah,
some time ago.
I was already working in a studio in the city.
Okay.
So that was a personal training studio. But the culture and the environment just wasn't
there at all.
It wasn't there. It was just old school kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of like, what's that place called? The McDonald's of personal training. Vision?
McVision?
Yeah, kind of like Vision, but there's a fancier name with a better logo.
Okay, so you're already doing PT, and then like, how was that for you? What type of people do you usually work with? And what type of people do you enjoy to work with? And obviously using your body weight methods in those sessions. How is your coaching going at the moment?
Yeah, so at the moment, I primarily do online coaching. So that's something that I transitioned into when COVID hit. I actually just stopped doing PT in that studio just before COVID. So, and I thought I would be doing like outdoor classes and stuff. And in a way, that was a perfect storm. So I picked up a bunch of clients from primarily places like Russia, America, and Japan through various connections, like dancing, for example. So I work with a few people that I dance salsa, and they want to improve their core conditioning and mobility for that in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been the majority of my coaching work. So just online coaching.
And strength for dancing.
Strength for dancing, although I don't really want to make it my niche because it's very narrow, and I don't do that much dancing myself anymore. I just use bodyweight strength as a foundation for anything that people can do. So if they have like an active hobby, be it climbing or dancing or mountain biking, bodyweight strength is the best foundation for making sure that you can push through it and get to the top and not get injured. That's if you do it right. So I started coaching here after finishing the internship. So I've been having a blast with the group classes with the tribe, and now I'm looking to start my PT and small groups in here. So be it with tribe members or just bringing my own little community in here. So that's what's in the works at the moment.
Unreal. Got to ask, muscle building, bodyweight training. Get people ask you about that.
They do.
Can it build muscle?
They do. Of course you can. Like, it's not really about the style of training that you do. It's about the stimulus that you need. So as we all know, as coaches, there's three main conditions you need to achieve to build muscle. So you need a proper training stimulus. You need to create a surplus in calories, and you need to make sure your hormones are right. So, that involves things like sleep recovery, getting enough sunlight and stuff like that. So training stimulus, people think with bodyweight training that since you're only using your body weight, you just get adapted to that and that's it. You stop growing. But in reality, there's a whole bunch of ways in which you can make sure that you create enough stimulus to build muscle. So the primary things where muscle growth comes from is, number one is mechanical tension. And that comes from doing high intensity movements, 1 to 5 reps. That's where you create the big tension. So that could be high level calisthenic skills such as, levers, flanges. If you spend enough time under tension in those, you will get that stimulus. So that's one of the things you can build muscle. Number two would be metabolic damage. So if you do things with moderate intensity, you do 8 to 15 reps, your blood vessels start to thin, and then you create a lack of oxygen and a buildup of metabolic products such as lactate, hydrogen ions, phosphate, and so on. That's where you get that burning sensation, the pump. So that's one of the mechanisms that contributes to muscle growth as well. And lastly, it's muscle damage. And that's what you get via training. And bodyweight training is a great way to achieve all of those things if you know what you're doing. So knowing the progressions and regressions, knowing how to load it and take it to the next level, knowing how to achieve optimal volume will ensure that you can build muscle through that. But the best things about bodyweight training is it ensures that you don't get out of balance. So it's things like lifting, or if you're using machines at the gym, people get a lot of imbalances. You can get away with having a weak core, and still build muscle. Whereas in calisthenics, it forces you to have some sort of balance going on, which is why I like it so much.
Preach. Yeah, I like how you really you explain that. I wanted to ask you, with training people for building muscle or otherwise, they come to you. Do most people come to you for body weight training? And well, my question is more, if someone comes to you that doesn't know much about body weight training, they're kind of a beginner and they want to start, like from my experience, body weight training, it's difficult because you have to build body awareness first. So you can create those mechanical tensions. So you can be using, compound movements, keeping your core tight, etc. How do you approach training a beginner to body weight training? And, if there were any common pitfalls for that or tips for beginners with body weight training, share.
I'd say number one thing is managing expectations. So I just want to make sure at this stage in my coaching career that I only work people with I like. And one of the primary indicators of that is they're not looking for quick gains. They want to learn the foundations, the foundational principles that are required to take them long-term to, long-term gains. And it takes a bit of learning. So in the beginning, you're most likely not going to be doing fancy stuff. You're going to be learning, how to brace, how to breathe, how to use your scapula, which most people starting bodyweight training, they have no idea that they have, the most important joint in their body that they don't know how to control. So I would take people through, a foundation course of 6 weeks where we just do that stuff. And, it's not going to be fancy. It's going to be slow, but it's going to set them up for the long-term success and make sure they don't make the same mistakes I did when I started out, which was, not using my scap, not using the full range of motion and getting super restricted, burning out, getting injuries and all those things. So if you can start slow and make sure they learn stuff that they need, then, the long-term progress is guaranteed if they stick to it.
100%. Great place to start for people, laid out for them.
Yeah. Managing expectations, super important, not just in bodyweight training, anything where there's a client, and service provider relationship. You don't want to overpromise things, and you want to set the expectations right from the get-go. And if they have the right mindset for growth.
How do you get the leads on Facebook though, without overpromising?
Overpromising, yeah, I'm joking. I guess you gotta
like pancake.
You gotta communicate intentionally. Communicate intentionally.
6 week pancake.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want to sound of that?
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah, you want to select for people that are not looking for that.
Yes.
And you might not get as many likes and stuff, but long term, that's going to make sure that you're working with the right people. And I started out coaching while still working an engineering job, and I had to get back to that during COVID as well, because I had to support my parents who were going through a bit of a struggle. So I'm still doing engineering job on the side, and that gives me the stable income.
Yep.
That makes sure that I don't have to work with people that I don't want to work with, and really focus on building the long-term foundation that I will enjoy working with.
Good.
So yeah.
Long-term relationships.
Exactly.
That's really how people get the benefits, right? As you said, it's long-term, it doesn't happen fast, and a big part of it is the context, building the expectations, but also building the relationship that keeps you guys both in the process for long enough for you to realize those benefits and beyond, right?
Yeah, and it's cumulative interest, just like in finance. Your money just grows faster if you keep it there for longer. Same thing with training, and same things with relationships. Be it a coach-client relationship, the more trust you build, the more you understand each other and understand the process, the longer, the greater potential you can fulfill in that relationship.
Cool. How many online students do you think you have now?
At the moment, I'm only coaching 5 people.
Yep.
So that's the high high attention program. That's the only product I have, and I primarily do video reviews for that. So there's no live training usually, and we have a one-on-one Zoom session with those people once a week where we catch up and go through any problems or progress they have in their sessions and their lifestyle and any other questions, stuff like that.
Yeah, cool. And so you're balancing the engineering job and you're kind of in a transition coming here. We're so happy to have you. Are you looking for one-on-one, doing some face-to-face training with a group or here
Absolutely.
now? Yeah.
So it's one of the best ways to build your coaching craft, working with people in person, one-on-one in particular. So I'm looking to build that and eventually start small groups as well.
Okay, sick. What's your training look like at the moment? Can I ask? And in that, like, are you focusing on any one particular thing at the moment? Any skills or?
Yep. So I don't do much of the fancy calisthenic stuff regularly anymore.
What would you? What would give us an example of what a fancy calisthenics thing would be?
So things like a planche, for example, or front lever. I've achieved a certain amount of success in those movements, and I realized over time that naturally, due to my body type and genetics, it's very easy for me to get strong in those movements, and I don't have to train as much. So if I do it, once a week or a couple of times a week, it's enough for me to progress. Where I'm still quite restricted is in my lower body mobility, in my lower back. So I'm taking a lot more time to tap into that and open up my hips and get stronger in there. And that takes quite a bit of time. Also started doing jits in here. So that's
what are you
exciting.
doing? Getting mobile or getting immobile?
Yeah,
I'm
just get broken. Yeah. So currently not training that for the last couple of weeks since I got a busted toe.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Busted toe on the jiu-jitsu mat.
And just a bit of pain here and there. I think my mistake was that I just tried to muscle my way out of things as a keen white belt, and I just need to tap early. And when I don't know the right technique to get out of a thing, I'll just tap. It's not worth
tap early, tap often.
Yeah.
Easier that way.
Yes, and I still do a bit of dance, so once a week. So that's my salsa practice. I do it with my partner. We're training for a choreography at the moment as well, which we're going to perform soon in May.
Wow. Yeah. Can you tell us more about the dance? Because I really love that's part of you and having someone in here that does dance. I love dance. I appreciate it. Haven't done hardly any, and I would like to. I see it as, we've always seen it as the one of the greatest, expressions of movement. How did you get into it, and what does it look like now? Was it salsa? Did you fall straight into salsa, or did you try a few things? Was it a group of people that you just spoke to you and you're like, yeah, let's get deep?
Well,
and what does it mean to you? A lot of joy.
Really great
your face is already lighting up. Where do I start?
Yeah, so I wanted to try salsa for a long time, since my early uni days. But
was it the music, or was it?
It's just the expression of joy in people's faces when I looked at them. Yeah,
so true.
That was the training style that. Sorry, not the training style. The dance style that seemed like was the most natural for people, and I wanted to tap into that. So around the same time I started training with Spencer, I just signed up for my first salsa class, and it really sucked.
Hadn't had any experience in dancing before that?
None. And
because you're really good now. I've seen you.
Thank you. You. I was always terrible on dance floor at like school parties and whatnot, because partly because I was so tight in my body, but I was also like insecure. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like I thought I couldn't move, so therefore I didn't. And so once I started doing it regularly, like three days a week, it just started to click. And once it started to click, I started going social dancing all the time, and it just became a huge part of my life. And I got into the flow state. Like it made me forget about whatever problems I had during the day, about my job I wasn't enjoying at the time. And I took it to a pretty high level at the time. I ended up doing a few choreos, and I ended up competing in the biggest competition in Australia. It's called the World Salsa Solo. in Brisbane. So I ended up competing just about a year and a half after I first stepped into.
Does that mean you danced solo?
No.
Okay.
So the solo competition was the highlight of that event, but I actually did a duet with my teacher. So it was a science duet. So we didn't do partner work, but we did like a synchronized
Okay,
duet.
yeah, sure.
Yes, I was going to do partner work as well, but the person I was training with just pulled out because she couldn't handle the pressure.
Dude, where you were just steel nerves?
No, but I was much better at hiding it and just pushing through it, I think.
So, I mean, in what was about 18 months since you started, did you have a natural propensity towards salsa? Were you kind of naturally good at it once you started, or was this hard work?
It was just really
grinding?
hard work.
Wow.
But I realized if you put enough effort into it and you stick to it, you can learn it. And once it starts clicking, you can add the self-expression bit. So once you know the structure of the music, the different movements, different partners, then you can start to get cheeky and unlock yourself and forget about the rest of the world.
That's so incredible.
Yeah.
How many years ago was this when you started?
I started around July 2017. I had a break though, so in 2019 when I did my Cert 4, I wasn't dancing. So for 7 months, I just didn't do anything.
How did that make you feel? Were you aware that was there a bit of a void there that you were like, I need to get back soon?
Yes, but I was also making sure that it wasn't no longer an addiction. It was no longer an escape from the life that was otherwise unsatisfying. So I redefined my relationship with it, and when I got back, I was better in terms of my attitude to salsa. I didn't need to escape five nights a week anymore. I could go once a week and have a blast, and then forget about it. And then I also did a bit of teaching for about 9 months or so after I got back. So that made me a much better communicator and a better dancer as well. I don't do any teaching anymore, and I don't do as much training for it anymore, but I still enjoy dancing. Like when I get in the zone, it's one of the best experiences in the world.
It's fantastic. I can see that your face light up, and I've heard this from other people before about dancing or about whatever it is that they really love. And I guess it just, for me, I really love seeing someone who's found the thing that brings them like all that joy. So it's almost like you had a time where salsa wasn't in your life, and you have now salsa, and it's always kind of there and it's part of your life. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's infectious, that joy, when you see someone talking about something that brings them pleasure.
You say the zone, I'm like, I want to go to the zone. I want to go there.
Yeah, maybe we should run another workshop here.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
The zone's an interesting place, and you speak about flow state, and I've heard of it. I haven't really studied it because I think it's in some like Eastern philosophies, this idea of flow state. I haven't read anything specific on it, but I'm kind of aware of what that means. I don't know a definition of it, but it is. I've always thought of it and related it to like something where you forget about everything and you're just in a kind of a pure state of joy and you're just going with it. And most of the time, a flow state, I feel, is, well, the way that I see is it exists in things that have something physical that is part of it. Like, I guess you can get into flow state on a video game, but it's just not how I relate to flow state. Flow state is like me playing soccer, and every ball that touches my foot drops exactly where I want it. Every touch is magic. The angles we're hitting, the runs we're making, we're playing, like, it's just everything is in sync. You feel so light on your feet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you explain like flow state for you?
For me, it's about being connected to what you're doing. So in salsa, for example, you're connected to the music, you're connected to your partner because it's a partner dance. You're connected to your body, and you're doing something that's engaging, that's not too easy, but it's also not so challenging that you can't enjoy it. And so a combination of all those things makes sure that you're in a flow state. It doesn't have to be physical, I think. I can find flow states in learning, in coding,
Sure.
For example, or writing. as well. But it just has to be at the perfect level of challenge, and it has to be something that you care about, that stimulates you.
For sure.
And that's individual for everybody.
Yeah, and I guess what I wanted to ask was, with that experiences that you have with salsa, and you could see it as kind of two different things at what you're doing, say strength training, body weight, physical pursuits. There's a physicality is a common thing there, but that flow state in dancing where it's movement and there's a high level of coordination and focus that goes on in every step where you put your weight, holding your partner, catching. I guess I'm trying to make a bridge between that and the body weight training, which is, and we're talking about sessions of training, sets and reps and the science involved with it. And then slow progression, and there's no cardio involved in it. So you don't get that endorphin type of experience on top of it. How do you see both of those two things in your life? And is there crossover there?
I think it's different. It's definitely not as open-ended as salsa, for example. It's a lot more structured if you do it right. If you're not doing just random stuff, but you can find flow in that. You connect to the movement. You understand what your body is doing. You're self-aware. And you connect with the process, even though it could be slow and tedious at times. You can still find flow with that. Some people, though, need a lot more variety and a lot more fun. That's why we have those things in our bodyweight classes. There's some movements that are more so on the skill level. Things like skin the cats, or there's some balancing, hand balancing, for example.
Oh yeah, so you're referring to the overreach portion of our bodyweight training?
Yes, just anything that's more of a not just a one-dimensional movement. Where there's a bit of skill involved. So that could be great for flow, and things like Metcon, when you just you're not thinking about anything, you just gotta get through the work, and you're not resting in between. So it's different, but the concept still is the same. As long as it's not too easy and not too overwhelming, and you really connect with it, you're not like thinking about what happened yesterday or what you have to do for work, then you can be in the flow state.
Yeah, I it's not that I don't believe it. I just wanted to see your perspective on it. I agree. Like, I find that as well. Is there, like, I feel that I can definitely be in a session and I see what it needs to be done, and especially if I'm with a partner and I have a very clear what needs to be done, and I'm on a timer, I have rest periods, and I can just be focused on it, and it's mad, I wonder, like, do you do anything that that enhances the flow state while you're training bodyweight training? And I guess I'm thinking of music. Do you use music or something like that? I've been playing with this lately with one of my small groups, and it came out of a influence from Keishi, who's the Persian yoga guy.
Yep.
From the eastern suburbs. Oh, he's from Persia, but are you aware of him?
Yeah, I've seen his workshop ads.
Okay.
I never attended them.
Okay, well, it was more about the kind of energy that he creates within the session, because their type of strength and conditioning comes out of a culture, and the culture in Persia surrounds this strength training, these temples of strength, and it's group. And whether you're a group or not, there's other elements there that work, and he has these, there seems to be themes of symmetry and synchronicity with reps with the group. And anyway, I thought I'd just get your thoughts on it, because I really connected to that when I did the workshop, and in my small group, or if I'm in the class, I don't do it religiously, but I'll try to, with a small group, I'll say I got 3 guys in there. I place the boxes in a triangle so everyone's facing each other, and sometimes you do the reps together. I think Vic does a lot of that as well, and it builds some sort of like energy between the people training. You kind of know what I'm getting at?
Yes. Things like music can definitely help.
Yeah.
And I would use like context specific music. So if I'm busting out reps, I would use something upbeat, especially, if it's but the same rhythm, where it's like 1 beat per rep or something like that.
That would be convenient.
Yes, that would be convenient.
Rather than the metronome that we often use.
Yeah, if I'm doing like mobility session or something where I have to relax a bit more, or if I'm doing a lot of static holds, that kind of music would be detrimental. So I would use something a lot more flowy, something a lot less testosterone filled. So that will definitely help you connect with it. Another big thing is like your mind has to be in the right space. So
because music can be distracting too.
Yeah.
You know, not just that it's harsh, but maybe it's taking your mind elsewhere because you're listening to the lyrics. So
I think it depends on your personality and
Sure.
individual context, whether you connect with the lyrics or not. And different people have different ability to focus. Highly individual, but music can definitely be a great tool to help you connect with training. I would say be mindful, be self-aware, connect to your body. So things like meditation, it's a cliche these days, but if you go into a training session and you use it as a tool to disconnect from the world, if you have unresolved issues in your mind still, it's going to prevent you from, getting most out of it. So do what you got to do to get out of your mind, do meditation, solve the problems that you need to solve. That's going to help you as well. And as we know, stress is going to prevent you from getting solid gains too. So
it's so true. Whenever you rush a workout, because it's in your program, it's that day and you usually get it done, but you're short of time or whatever it is, your mind's elsewhere. It's never a really good session, is it?
Nope. So yeah, it's mental game as much as it's physical game, if not more, I would argue. So you have to be really connected with the work. Otherwise, getting the full benefits, and you have, high chances of getting injured and stuff like that.
Sure. Cool. Well, what's next for you? You're coaching here on Thursdays as a regular thing now?
Yep, it is a regular thing. Doing a lot of covers these days, on other days. And so moving on to getting some PT in the house as well.
In the house.
Yeah, so people that are interested in bodyweight strengths, from beginner to intermediate level, I guess. That's the bulk of what I would want to do in my sessions. Of course, I'll be doing weights and stuff like that. These are all just tools, but bodyweight training as a best foundation for people, I would be, focusing on that a lot. So
it's what you're most passionate about?
It's what I'm most passionate about, and that's as a personal belief, since it's the most accessible and it forces your body to work as a functional unit. I utilize it a lot, with myself and my clients.
Do you see yourself continuing to coach salsa?
I stopped. So I stopped a few months ago.
Oh, that's right.
I don't do it anymore. Where I see myself going in the future is developing more education and courses on things like bodyweight training, lifestyle training, recovery, and so on. Because even though I'm in coaching, I don't like repeating myself. So I try to develop more materials to make sure my clients and people that follow me learn those concepts and internalize them. So that's where I see myself in the long term, looking at myself as more of an educator rather than a coach.
Very cool. Where are you with that now? Just because you mentioned you've got online people, and I'm not sure how they came to you, whether it was network or do you have a site somewhere? Have you already started to build those sorts of assets, I suppose? Yeah,
so I have a website, nickgolkin.com. So I've done a bit of long form material in there in terms of blogs. So I'll be writing a lot more in there in the near future.
I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, cheers. And then
there's no course offering yet or anything.
No, nothing like that.
There?
So that's going to be in development in the next few months. So potentially just foundational bodyweight training as a first course material will be there.
Very cool. Soon. The last couple of weeks inside of the gym, for the listeners, we started a business development course for PTs in the gym, and it's a business. There's a money side of it, and there's like a business structure side of it. There's the coaching side of it, and there's marketing, etc. And we started a couple of weeks ago, and it's a good timing. having you come in here. How are you finding the sessions? They're being run by our coach, Azza Howley.
Yeah, shout out to Azza.
Oh, there he is right there. What's up, bro? It's cool. Like, how are those sessions going? Are you finding them useful?
Yeah, they're great. Some of the material I've already been familiar with since I've worked with a business coach before. But they're great in terms of refreshing and also group accountability. Since
That's
we're
it,
all
hey.
here sitting in a circle, sharing our wins and lessons and our plans with each other. So I think that's the biggest benefit.
Yeah, I feel it. You can feel that energy, like, and you know, we're setting there's tasks, there's a bit of homework, and you're right. Like, I've heard some of these things before, but it's like knowledge is nothing without the action, right?
Exactly.
So I can feel the energy building. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that group goes and how you build what you're speaking of and how you go in the years to come.
Thank you.
Exciting stuff.
I'm pretty pumped. We've got a good community here, and it doesn't feel like we're in competition. We feel like we can grow all together.
Yes, everyone in the gym. Well, that's what we're all about here. It's a big collaborative effort with shared knowledge between the coaches. We're working side by side on the floor. There's plenty of people who need help here, you know, out there rather. And it's a great. I think it's a good work environment. I enjoy it here, and it's great to hear that when you came here, you felt welcomed, and it's going to be a good future here. You mentioned nickgolkin.com, but where else can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram as well, Nick_Golkin, GOLKIN, or you can shoot me a friend request on Facebook, Nick Golkin as well. But I would say Instagram and the website would be the best points to find out about me.
Any final messages to people out there thinking, I'd like to be a bodyweight beast also?
The best message, I would say, if I could put it on a billboard, I would put it everywhere.
Oh,
drop the ego and learn what the right way is. It could be, it could take a lot longer, but long term, it will take you a lot further.
Drop the ego.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's funny because T mentioned ego before. He was like, I can't call it. My ego gets in the way.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Okay, it was great to have you on. Listeners out there, you got the details there. Reach out if you want to find Nick, or if you want help with your training, or you're interested in any events we're having. I mentioned the BJJ Beginners Workshop next weekend, this weekend, if you're listening to it, April 17th. Also the Coaches Internship Intensive, which is weekend of May 8th and 9th, Saturday, Sunday. A really great thing there. Reach out to us for that. Help with your training, whatever it is. junglebrothers.com, Instagram, Facebook. Come and find us. Thanks, listeners.
Cheers.
Thanks, Nick.